Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to my podcast, Spiritual Talk with Christy Godwin and Friends. I am so blessed to have the beautiful Deb Krier here today. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I am so honored. We're going to have such a fantastic discussion.
So, a little bit about Deb. She is a warrior. I don't know if any of you follow me on social medias. I have a whole series going on about the divine warrior, and Deb is it.
Mhm.
This
Says it
lady.
on my arm.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you saw it. If you're listening to it on podcast outlet, she just showed a tattoo on her arm. So Deb is such a fighter, and what is so beautiful about her heart is she turned her fight into a cause to help others. So now, Deb, tell us a little bit about your first diagnosis
Mhm.
with cancer. What were those
Okay.
words?
I was a good kid. I went in for my annual checkup, had my mammogram, and they actually called, excuse me, and said, come back. And so I thought, oh, that's not good. It wasn't that I didn't smile pretty. But
Right.
of course, like any good technician, they could not say anything more than we just need to do another.
Yeah.
So what the initial excuse me, all of a sudden I got a tickle. The initial diagnosis was that I had uh, microcalcifications.
Okay. Okay.
So no lump, no bump, no anything like that. And it was stage 0. So what I do is, I dash home, or actually I was home because my doctor had called to say this is what it is. It was my primary care doc, right? Because you didn't need anybody other than that. So I turned to Dr. Google because that's what we do, right? And Dr.
Love me some
Google,
Dr. Google.
I
Yes.
know, and folks don't do that. But yeah, so Google informed me that microcalcifications are something that virtually every woman of a certain age has as our bodies change. As the hormones change, these little spiegly specks are throughout our body. It's actually so small that the computer saw it. They can't be seen by the naked eye. The vast majority of the time, there's absolutely no problem. But with people who are special, because I have to be special,
Of course.
they start coalescing and then they cause problems. And so that was what the problem was. But we really weren't concerned. I mean, he just kept saying stage 0. He referred me to a surgeon. And so not even an oncologist for several months because we really weren't concerned. And so, yeah, I was not worried at all. Life went on. I mean, and then we did decide, hey, let's pull some lymph nodes,
Mm.
and 8 of 12 lymph nodes came back positive. So I went from stage 0 to stage 3, just bunk, right? Nobody was more surprised than my surgeon. I mean, we really were all just very surprised. And it was just very surreal because you knew you had cancer, but you really didn't worry too much about it. And then, and so then we kicked into high gear.
Yes. And I do want to say that Deb's story is a lot like mine, but different.
Mm-hmm.
I had not been a good girl and gone for my yearly checkups because it
Mm.
was during COVID.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And it was just, there was no family history.
Right.
I had always been up on my
Mm-hmm.
appointments. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just not up on it. I will admit it. It was like
Mm-hmm.
probably two or 3 years between mine.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, I knew I needed to go. There's a story on that one, but I needed to go and
Mm-hmm.
uh, have my mammogram done. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't too worried about it when
Mm-hmm.
they called me
Mm-hmm.
back because I have what's called dense breasts. I
Right.
would
And that's very difficult to actually
right.
get a good picture of. Mm-hmm.
So I have been called back again, but even though I was hoping against hope, I
Mm-hmm.
knew I could just tell from the
Mm-hmm.
body language of
Right.
the people
Mm-hmm.
there that
Mm-hmm.
something was off. And so they called me back to do
Mm-hmm.
the biopsy. And
Mm-hmm.
but so now same thing, Deb,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Google, because of
Mm-hmm.
the size of
Mm-hmm.
my tumor
Mm-hmm.
after they had done the ultrasound,
Mm-hmm.
stage 1 is what like
Ah.
because
Mm-hmm.
of the size of the tumor,
Right.
typically
Yeah.
stage
So
1.
you're worried, but not real worried.
Correct. Right. I was like, oh, you know what? I know a ton of people have stage 1
Mm-hmm.
cancer. Biggity
Mm-hmm.
boom, take it out,
Right.
really
Mm-hmm.
radiation, whatever, and you're good. You move on with your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that didn't happen for me, and it did not happen for Deb.
Mm-hmm.
So now what was the next step in yours?
So then I actually did go to an oncologist, and was referred to her from a friend. Love this woman. She is still my oncologist today. And she said, okay, we need to throw the book at this. Now, uh, I have a different type of diagnosis. So a lot of times people, well, and so I guess one of the first things I need to back up is, what were we going to do? I have a history of working with an oncologist and with American Cancer Society. So I know just enough to really be a little bit dangerous about all this. But I decided that for me, the best course was going to be the traditional approach. I was going to do chemo, I was going to do surgery, then I was going to do radiation.
Okay.
That has to be the decision by every single person. Don't
Yes.
let a doctor make it for you. Don't let a spouse, whoever, make it for you. You have to choose what's going to work for you. And I truly did feel that that was the best course for me. And so she said, okay, we're going to start with chemo, and we're going to start with a massive dose, because these little spots were floating throughout my body. And so it's different. Like a lot of times when you talk to women who have breast cancer chemotherapy, they talk about red devil. I didn't have red devil chemo. I had very different types. I had 8 different types. And everything went well as it could be. I mean, it took 8 hours. I discovered that Jimmy John's delivers to the infusion room, right? Because I was there for so long, I needed lunch. Was fine for several days, and then realized something was not right. And I also tell people, you mentioned this, your body knows what's going on, and follow what your body is saying, and never ever think, well, this is normal for chemo or for whatever, because it might not be. And your doctors might be, your doctor still needs to know what's going on. And so we called in, said, hey, this is what's going on. And they said, yeah, get down here as fast as you can. Didn't make it that far. Ended up having to call an ambulance, and they trundled me off to the hospital. Now, I am, as you can probably tell, chatty Cathy. I'm chatty Cathy all the time. And so I'm in the ambulance, and I'm chatty Cathy to this wonderful EMT, and we stopped. And I said, why are we stopping? Well, I mean, and the hospital was 5 minutes away, so I knew about where we were. And he said, well, it's a red light. And I remember saying, huh, I don't get lights and sirens. And hours later, I woke up. I crashed. And so what ended up happening was the chemotherapy caused a hole in my colon, which then all that ickiness got into my body, and I kind of skipped sepsis, and I went straight into septic shock. And I remember my heart, I was tachycardic. My heart rate was about 200 beats a minute. I could fly. I mean, it was like, whoa.
So
I went into
were you in pain? Like,
I was in major pain, and that
okay, so it
was,
wasn't nausea
yes,
that hit
yeah,
you. It was
no,
pain.
I did have some nausea, and I had a temperature, but then it spiked, but yeah, the pain was when I thought, oh no, something's really wrong,
And it
and it
was
was
in
on
your
my,
abdomen area. You were
yes,
having
and it was on my lower left side, and I know that my appendix were on my right side, so
right.
knew, something is really wrong, and discovered later on that the complication that I had, because I'm special, happens less than 1% of the time. And at
No,
that
I just have
point,
to ask you, why didn't you go buy a lottery ticket right at that moment?
I know, I'm like, oh my gosh. And at that point, according to my doctor, I was the only person that ever survived that, because most of the time it actually went too far. And the doctors argued over how fast I was going to die that day. My oncologist said, hey, she needs immediate emergency surgery. And the surgeon said, why are we bothering? She's not going to make it through the day. And my oncologist, said, so had that, ended up in the hospital for about 7 weeks with multiple complications. I mean, septic shock is not a good thing.
No, no, it is not.
And yeah, and so had all sorts of things, but I kept defying the odds. And obviously, I told somebody the other day, no, I'm a ghost.
Right?
But yes, yeah. So I, and you know, obviously healed from all of that. I decided to have a double mastectomy, without reconstructive surgery. Again, totally personal choice. Part of mine was my age. If I had been 30 years younger, I would have chosen something different. But I'm like, yeah, who needs
So
those
real quick,
things?
I want everyone to hone in on what Deb has said a couple of times. When
Mm-hmm.
she was talking about her treatment, she made it quite clear
Mm-hmm.
that is your choice.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you gather
Mm-hmm.
data. Yes, you look at everything that makes
Mm-hmm.
you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Data, homeopathic, listen
Mm-hmm.
to your friends,
Yep.
whatever makes you
Mm-hmm.
feel comfortable. It's so
Right.
very personal.
Right.
Also, she's talking about the reconstructive surgery. I
Mm-hmm.
know so many people who have had it
Mm-hmm.
and haven't had it. And again, it is such a personal
Mm-hmm.
choice. And
Right.
the thing about cancer is that it is, yes, you can have support and you don't travel the path alone,
Mm-hmm.
but the decisions are ones that you need to make
Yes.
for
Yes. Mm-hmm.
yourself and alone.
Right. Right.
Yes, gather the
Mm-hmm.
data,
Mm-hmm.
get input from
Mm-hmm.
people, do whatever makes you feel comfortable, but please, I want everyone listening, if they can come out of this with
Mm-hmm.
anything, it is to make sure you understand that
Mm-hmm.
your health is
Mm-hmm.
yours
Mm-hmm.
and you want to listen to your loved ones,
Right.
but do it make the
Mm-hmm.
choice that
Mm-hmm.
resonates with
Mm-hmm.
your body.
Right. Right. And my husband, God bless him, said, "You do what works for you."
My
Um,
husband has always
yeah.
said the same thing. I
Yeah.
just had
Mm-hmm.
a not great scan just the other day. I was
Mm-hmm.
great for many, many months. I
Mm-hmm.
had a great scan just the other day, trying to, that was
Mm-hmm.
not great. That says the
Mm-hmm.
cancer's growing again. So trying to decide, what
Mm-hmm.
are my options now? Do I go into this
Mm-hmm.
trial? So I was
Mm-hmm.
asking my husband,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think? He said,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not taking this responsibility.
Yeah.
He
But
has done a lot of research
mhm,
for me and he's
mhm,
helped me,
mhm,
but he's
mhm.
like, this is on you.
Oh yeah. And oh, when you have that support system, it is incredible. And I know I wouldn't have made it through if it hadn't been for my husband.
And if you don't
Yeah.
have it,
Hmm.
if you
Hmm.
don't have it at home,
Hmm.
Deb's
Find it.
and Deb has it for you. Trying not to die dot live. So that's
Hmm.
something I want everyone to, it's
Hmm.
dot live. Her
Right.
contact information will be in
Hmm.
the verbiage of this, whether you're watching on a podcast.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah.
But if you don't have it in your family,
Hmm.
there's so much support out
Hmm.
there. Deb has a great resources on her website. You can go in there, and there's also a private Facebook group she's talked about under the same name,
Hmm.
Trying
Hmm.
Not to Die. On her website, she will have support groups,
Hmm. Hmm.
resources. So I'm going to mention this a couple of times throughout this podcast. If you don't have, because I know a lot of
Hmm.
people feel like they're walking this journey
Hmm.
alone, not have the support within their family.
Right. Hmm.
If
Right.
you don't,
Hmm.
that's why Deb
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
here.
Right.
She's living her purpose, which is
Hmm.
providing that support to others.
Oh, well, thank you. We need to make sure we have the right support, right? We've
Yes.
been talking about that. I fired 3 doctors, actually 5, because some of them I only made it through one appointment. I thought, "Duh." But yeah, I mean, I had to have the team around me, and we laughed at the very start about warrior, and we are very much warriors. But somebody sent me at the start of my journey this thing that said, "Fate says to the warrior, you cannot withstand the storm." And the warrior responds, "I am the storm." And so,
Damn.
yeah, I had warrior tattooed on my arm. Our symbol for trying not to die, live is a warrior. But the thing is, folks, and this may be the most important thing that I want you to know is warriors have to have their supportive tribe members around them.
Absolutely. Yes.
And that's your loved ones, that's your friends, that's your church group, your co-workers, your medical team, right? They are very much a part of our tribe. And so you have to, and sometimes you do have to say, you know what, thank you, but no thank you. Because we have to focus all of our energy, and whether it's something very simple that they are treating, and that is absolutely fabulous, or something much more catastrophic, we have to have the right people around us.
Yeah. And like Deb, I will tell everyone that I also went through a couple of providers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the one now, after I went back, she was just very sympathetic and she's just like, these
Mm-hmm.
are your options. I was a little
Mm-hmm.
bit
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed because, no one wants to hear that their scan has come back not
Mm-hmm.
great.
Right.
So I gathered my questions. I had a
Mm-hmm.
telephone consult with her a couple of days later. And I just said, okay, thank you for the information.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do some
Mm-hmm.
research
Right.
and sit with it for a moment. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, let me know. And when I
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm so sorry, I know that you
Mm-hmm.
probably, patients like me, you're like, oh my goodness, here she goes again. And she's like, no, I love when people
Mm-hmm.
take ownership
Right.
of their
Yes.
health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because now, Deb, you said, what was what was the person like you had a doctor quote you what the true key to healing is. Now, this is a
Yes.
limited
Yeah.
patient. I don't want
Mm-hmm.
anyone to think that,
Right.
that you do have to have medical care of some sort or,
Right. Yes.
some,
Yeah, yeah. So when I worked for the oncologist, so that's been probably 35 years ago. And I was his office staff, and uh, he would tell people that surviving cancer is 99% in your brain. If you think you are going to survive, you will survive. Now, that might only be days, weeks, whatever, but it's a different mindset, right? But if you think you're going to die, you're going to die. I mean, and it doesn't matter, whatever they're doing. And we do, people tell me, oh, you're so Pollyanna. I try to be very upbeat. I try to be funny, right? And make especially my care team, I try to make them laugh because they have such a hard, serious job. But I have bad times. I have times where I am mad, where I am grieving the change that has come over. I mean, all of those things. But it is so much about our mindsets. If we think we're going to get through this, we will get through it. And that really is just the key to it.
there. Yes, yes, yes. And that has been, now I do want to, because a lot of people will say that about me. You're so positive. You're like, no, there are times, frankly, I'm just ticked off
Mm-hmm.
and I'm angry and I'm
Right.
saying words that are not fit for public.
I know. Yeah. Those bad words. Mm-hmm.
Yes. There are times where I'm crying and I
Mm-hmm.
am not fit
Mm-hmm.
to be, I right after
Right.
my this last set of scans,
Mm-hmm.
someone was calling me, would you
Mm-hmm.
want to go out to dinner? No, I'm not fit to be in public right now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's okay. Please feel those
Mm-hmm.
feelings.
Yes.
Don't
Yes.
bottle them up. Feel
Mm-hmm.
them,
Mm-hmm. Right.
express them.
It would be unhealthy to not feel them.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we do. Now the thing is, I don't always tell people I'm having a bad day. Yesterday was not a good day, just not a good day. And so I told my friend, I said, I'm going to go take a nap. And she, of course, said, and I frequently take naps. I've gone back to kindergarten, right?
Right.
Um,
Lovely.
and I slept for over an hour. Now that was very strange. I don't normally do that in the middle of the day, but my body said, you need a timeout. And I paid attention to it because I knew if I just kept pushing on, like we women do,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, then I was going to have an even bigger issue. So pay attention to your bodies.
Yes. Thank you, Deb. I don't think you can say that enough. Pay
I know.
attention.
I know.
And I'm
Right.
so proud of you that you honored your body and you
hmm
were able to, and you stopped
hmm
because you are a very busy lady. You have just a couple of irons in the fire.
I know. I know. I've really been trying to get my doctors to clone me, and they laugh. I'm like, ugh, you've got all these samples and scans. Now, why can't you clone me?
Right, absolutely. You have enough more DNA than anyone
hmm
would ever
Right.
want.
Right.
So now, after you're starting to
hmm
recover
hmm
from this side effect
Yeah. Yeah.
of the chemo, and did you have the mastectomy and then have the chemo?
No, I did the chemo first because the thought was let's hit it hard,
Okay.
get through that, and then do the mastectomy. And so yeah, so we and I did try chemo again, totally different regime, and had the same issue. Fortunately, I knew long before I got critical. Uh-oh, and so they so I just had sepsis, and so I only spent a week in the hospital that
Oh,
time.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
just a week. And I was one of those patients. I think I was on the surgical floor, because and all I needed was IV antibiotics. I was perfectly fine. I was working the whole time I was there. I had my computer. I just kept going merrily along. The nurses thought I was great because I needed nothing from them. But yeah, I mean, And so, yeah, we tried chemo. So I will never again do chemo. I mean,
So no,
clearly my body is like, nope.
you didn't go back and finish the regimen. You did
No, no,
one,
yeah,
and you're
yeah.
like,
We
oh,
tried, yeah, decided to do something different just to see. And part of that is because I'm what's known as HER2 positive. And that's an acronym, and I can never remember what it means. But in essence, it means cancer cells multiply more quickly. And so, we thought, well, let's try and figure out what's going on. So we did try chemo again, and I actually got through several treatments before my body went, nope, no. And yeah, so I will, unless there's something down the road where something comes up again and we try something really, really different, chemo is just out of the picture.
now you are triple negative, HER2 positive.
Triple positive. Yeah, so yeah, I'm triple positive. So HER2 positive, estrogen receptor positive, and I forget what the other, but it's, which is actually, you have, you've got the three things. So you can be triple positive, triple negative, or a mishmash of the combination.
Very good. I'm HER2 positive also, which,
Mm-hmm.
which base,
Mm-hmm.
which means that your cancer is estrogen fed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I joke that my body loves to produce estrogen because there was, late onset menopause. I didn't even go through menopause until they put me on all the drugs to put me in
Mm-hmm.
menopause. And because of that, yes, the
Mm-hmm.
cancer can multiply.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, when did you figure out you had gone into stage 4?
So I was in the hospital, and that was during that initial 7 weeks. I had a plethora of doctors. I mean, at one point, because I had so many complications, I had 10 different doctors that would do rounds. And it was very confusing. But I mentioned to one of them, I don't even remember which one it was, my rib hurt, and it was the rib on the bad side. So we considered it for the charts and all that stuff that the cancer was on my left breast. And so on the left side, one of my ribs hurt. And this was still, I had not had the mastectomy yet. So did a bone biopsy. Those are fun. I made the mistake of opening my eyes at the wrong time and going, oh, but that came back as inconclusive. So it wasn't cancer free, but it wasn't showing absolute cancer. And so my oncologist said, nah, we are just going to say stage 4, because that way then I could pretty much have whatever treatment that she said I needed without having to jump through too many bells and whistles. Now, the really nice thing, I mean, this was 2015. Since then, all of my scans for that cancer, because I have some others, have come back totally negative. So the bone, there was nothing that's come up in my bones, and I have a scan next week, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, nothing bone cancer, nothing else.
Okay, so
But
now from the
mhm,
breast cancer,
mhm.
you technically don't have any other signs of
Yes, so
metastatic.
I would be considered in remission.
Okay, very
Mhm,
good. But
mhm.
then that's not the end of your cancer journey.
No, no, because I'm cancer girl.
Right. It likes you.
Mhm,
It needs to
mhm.
lose your address.
I know. And I need to go back to being normal as opposed to special. So one of the doctors I fired was my primary care doctor. Just there were several things that I just nip. So my new primary care doctor, love her to pieces. She makes me come in for an annual physical twice a year so that she can keep track of me. I had a hysterectomy years ago for totally different reasons. And so we laugh that I literally, for when I go for annual checkups, I don't take off my clothes because there's nothing for them to
Right.
look at. Right. Um, and so I was in seeing her several years ago, and she said, "Is there anything else?" And I said, "Well, I do have this place on my arm that won't stop bleeding." Dermatologist the following week, and he diagnosed basal cell carcinoma, which, if you have to get skin cancer, that is, and I'm putting this in my little air quotes for those who are listening, the good kind.
Yes. Yes.
And so it was actually so small that he was able to burn it off. I didn't have to have stitches. But I now get to do what I fondly call, and he absolutely hates when I do this. I go in every 6 months for the strip and spin.
Very
Right.
nice. I had basal cell also, but I have to go in every year for the strip and
Ah,
spin.
well, I'm a redhead with freckles and all sorts of stuff. Now, I'd never been to a dermatologist before, so that was kind of surprising. And then last year, I had was talking to my oncologist because since I could not finish chemotherapy, and I am HER2 positive, I have continued the treatment for that. Normally, you have Herceptin, and you have it for a year. I am still doing it, so I still have a port in my shoulder. I go in every 21 days. They zip me full of stuff and send me on my merry little
And
way.
then what do you currently get for that?
So I get a drug. It's actually called Kangenti, which is a biosimilar drug to Herceptin. So in essence, same drug, different manufacturer. And so yeah, so I get the Kangenti, but I was in, and it happened to mention to my oncologist, hey, my left arm hurts, which because of every complication that I have had, red lights go on. I mean, all sorts of stuff. And so she said, but we knew what it was. We knew it was probably scar tissue because it happens when I sit at my desk too long
Yes.
and I just need to stretch and it goes away. So it's probably scar tissue, just pulling on something it shouldn't. But
Mhm.
she said, we haven't had a reason to have a scan for a while. Let's do a CAT scan. So I go and I do a CAT scan. I came back, yes, what came back, whatever's in my arm was nothing. And I've had physical therapy and that's all better. But it said, oh, by the way, you have a lesion on your thyroid.
Oh,
I went,
great. Mhm.
so trot me off to those doctors. Several tests later, my doctor calls and she said, you have papillary thyroid cancer. I said the words that we cannot repeat. And
Right.
it was the biggie. It was the big one that starts with an F.
Yeah.
And she, and she laughs and she says, that's why you will be just fine. And so July of last year, I had my entire thyroid removed. There were two tumors, but we caught it so early that it had not spread. And so I didn't have any follow-up treatment for that aside from the thyroid removal. And I asked my endocrinologist, I said, so is this a spread of the original cancer? And he said, no, thyroid cancer is always primary.
Oh,
I
good.
don't know if that made me feel better or not. I mean, it
I was sitting here thinking, which had you rather have heard?
yeah, yeah, and I think I felt better because knowing that a cancer has come back is, I mean, you're kind of in that place,
I am.
scarier. And knowing, okay, well, we took my thyroid out, it's hunky dory. You do have to take a medicine because you do need your thyroid pretty much till the day you die.
Right.
So I have a little pill that I have to take every morning, 1 hour before breakfast. They're very specific about that.
There you go.
Um, and my surgeon, now I love my surgeon. He's done at least 5 surgeries for me, maybe more. I'd walk on fire for him. I mean, you talk about we need the right team. I love him dearly. And so he tells me, because he was going to remove my thyroid, he said, and women will appreciate this. I will put the incision in one of the wrinkles in your neck so it doesn't show. And I went, yay.
I think I feel better. I'm not really sure. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, and so you literally cannot see that I have that I have any, because yes, there are wrinkles on my neck, and so he put it there. But yeah, so that was third time. Luckily it was not 3 times and you're out. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep swinging.
Right.
And so yeah, I mean, that's it.
I have
My
to, but my dad, who is in spirit. So for those of you,
mhm,
of course,
mhm.
if you're watching this podcast, you already know I'm a psychic medium. We all have a team on the other side. My
Yes,
dad
yes.
has
That's
transitioned.
my tattoo. These are my angels.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
My dad so I was on the treadmill, but I would do a
Mhm,
walking
mhm,
meditation sometimes. Yes,
mhm.
that's another
Right.
meditation
Mhm,
house. So this was shortly after
mhm,
I found out that the current treatment I'm on isn't really working.
mhm,
Now the cancer hasn't exploded in my body,
mhm,
but the original sites are now starting to grow again.
mhm,
One on my liver, two on my spine. So we certainly need to get control of those.
mhm,
Now I'm ticked off.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad
Right.
shows up in meditation on the treadmill,
Mm-hmm.
and he puts into what's called your third eye
Mm-hmm.
clairvoyantly.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This battlefield, because my dad was a huge history buff and he knew
Ah.
everything about all the wars,
Mm-hmm.
all of them. So he puts me on this battlefield and I see
Mm-hmm.
myself backing up.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Dad, I'm not retreating. What are we doing
Yeah.
here?
Excuse
And
me. Mm-hmm.
he said that I was just basically reforming my battle line.
Okay. Okay.
He said,
Developing the new strategy.
you've lost the skirmish, not the war.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
time to retreat,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
re-attack.
Regroup. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
regroup and re-attack in a different
Mm-hmm.
manner.
Right.
So, I want everyone, whether you're a psychic medium or not,
Mm-hmm.
and you're used to recognizing the symbols, I
Mm-hmm.
want everyone to know that they do have a beautiful team on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
So you can, if you don't have a solid family
Mm-hmm.
or good
Mm-hmm.
friend support, you can create that. Deb
Mm-hmm.
has this beautiful website,
Mm-hmm.
a private Facebook group. I love that she has it private because as someone who has a pretty large social media
Mm-hmm.
presence, I know that not everyone is always helpful in times.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The vast majority of people are.
Uh-huh.
I'm okay because I knew what I was facing when I put myself out
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
But some people are very private and they're not used to the
Mm-hmm.
way sometimes people can come at
Mm-hmm.
them. So I love
Right.
that your Facebook group is
Mm-hmm.
private, so there
Mm-hmm.
is some protection there.
Mm-hmm.
But you can go to her website, I'm trying not to die.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to her Facebook group, trying
Mm-hmm.
not to die, and there's so much support you can gather
Mm-hmm.
there, resources. I don't know about you, Deb, but I have learned words that I could have gone to my grave without ever
Oh
knowing.
yeah. Mm-hmm. First one was metastatic. I mean, that's the
Correct.
word you really don't want to hear. Mm-hmm.
Didn't even really know what that. I had
Mm-hmm.
seen commercials, and
Mm-hmm.
I still remember before the big C
Mm-hmm.
word was thrown at me, seeing
Mm-hmm.
commercials for if you're living with metastatic breast cancer. And I thought,
Right.
in my head, I specifically remember
Mm-hmm.
thinking, living with cancer, don't you just get
Mm-hmm.
rid of it?
Right. Mm-hmm. Or you die. I mean, it's either or. Mm-hmm.
To me, you just got rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was,
Yeah.
and I can remember thinking that. It's like, oh, there's no, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then when you hear those words thrown at
Mm-hmm.
you,
Mm-hmm.
stage 4,
Mm-hmm.
this is how long you have on this
Mm-hmm.
planet. And I will
Right.
say that is probably, there's a couple of things that were extremely unhelpful that I heard
Mm-hmm.
from people. And one of them was, at least you know about how long you have on this planet.
I know. I'm like, I'm sorry, I do not have an expiration date.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I love that you have some protection built in
Mm-hmm.
with the Facebook group
Mm-hmm.
being private and then where people can. Now tell me a little bit about your website, what people can expect when they go
Mm-hmm.
there.
Well, it is trying not to die.live. And the name came about, the trying not to die part, because of my mother. So she, and now I'm an only child and she lived in Kansas. And so, my husband got to make that phone call saying she has gone into surgery and she's probably not coming out.
I'm sorry for everyone watching. I don't know if y'all can hear my dog barking in the background. Can you hear that, Dad?
That's fine. We love having dogs bark.
I really do not know what they are cussing about out there,
I know they're
but
chiming in. They're just putting in
there's
their
no one at
view.
my door. There might be a
Mhm,
few leaves blowing down. Okay, I'm sorry.
mhm.
I just
Oh,
wanted
my
to make
my
sure.
my
Yeah.
dogs bark at air.
Okay.
So but
I
yeah,
wanted
so
to
yeah, so my husband had to make that phone call to my mother and tell her, come now, and you're probably not going to be here soon enough. I can't imagine that. I cannot imagine that. So anyhow, mom comes out. She stayed for 4.5 months. That's a little long, but
you got to see her baby, Dad.
I know. And I was, and now that said, because of her and other family members, and of course my husband and some friends, I was never in the hospital alone. Somebody spent the night with me, all the time. I mean, and that was absolutely critical to what I was going through. But one of the times when one of my lovely medical people came and went, I got the disapproving mother face. That right. And I went, what? And she said, you did not say thank you. And I said, oh, for God's sakes, I'm trying to not die here. And then when we were starting to, to plan what we were going to be doing, I know, right? Um,
Oh, that's so
and I thought that is so true. We get so caught up in whatever it is, and sometimes it's just life, right? Trying to not die that we forget that we need to live. And it
Oh,
really
yes,
is,
Deb,
yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and so it is just absolutely so critical. And maybe it's 5 hours, 5 days, 50 years, right? Who knows how long that is, but we have to live that. And so, I am a marketing person. Christy mentioned that I do other things and I have my own marketing firm. And so, I know you're supposed to have whatever.com. Well, trying not to die.com was taken. How rude. I offered to buy it. They added a zero to what I offered. And I said, absolutely not. This is in my brain. And so you go to, GoDaddy or whoever, and it suggests other things. And it suggested trying not to die.live. And it was kind of like, well, duh. Right.
Isn't
And
that so
so
perfect?
I know, and so we actually made it an um my brain just totally lost that word. Live stands for, see, that's one of the things that has happened with my brain is words just go away. An acronym, that's it. Um, and so it's, live stands for leading your tribe, invigorating your soul, voicing your feelings, and elevating your mindset, right? And so yeah, so it's trying not to die.live. And so on the website you find the story, but we also, as Christy so graciously mentioned, we have resources, and we're always adding resources, for people to look at. And we joked at the start about Dr. Google. Folks, Dr. Google is one of your biggest enemies when you're dealing with something like this. So find trusted resources. And if anybody who is listening or watching has a resource they think we should add, contact me. I would love to add it. We also have, we other things on there. We have my blog. Always looking for guest bloggers, and so that's a lot of fun to be able to have that. And then, of course, because it needs to make money, we do have some products that we offer. But it is far more about just connecting people and providing the resources that they need.
Now tell us a little bit. You were talking about the some products. Tell us about
Mhm.
this bear hug that
So,
you have.
for those of you who are listening, I am showing this absolutely adorable
He
little
is adorable.
stuffed teddy bear. His name is Warrior, and it has this little T-shirt. It's the cutest little T-shirt in the world. That has the logo on it. It is the softest, most adorable bear in the world, and so we do offer the Bear Hug Care Package, and the goal is that you send it to someone who is needing a bear hug. And, I had several stuffed animals that friends sent to me when I was in the hospital. And those little critters went everywhere with me. But the thing was, when I saw them, touched them, held them, I knew I was not alone. And so that's the concept with the Bear Hug Care Package, and we'll have a discount code in the notes. But it's really to send to someone just to let them know that you care. And there's other things in it. There's a chapstick that is unflavored and unscented, because sometimes when you're in treatment, you don't want raspberry flavored whatever. And we have inspirational temporary tattoos. Not everybody wants a tattoo like I have that lasts forever. But and several other things that are in there, because it does kind of change on occasion. But yeah, so it's just this cute little bear hug.
And I do, for someone who has been through that, just receiving, because I know when I was first diagnosed, got a lot of different things in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about, it's the thought. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Right.
people are
Right.
afraid, I don't know what to
Mm-hmm.
send. They already have
Mm-hmm.
this. It's
I
not
don't
about
want to make
that.
it worse by making them think about it.
Right. Trust me, it's
Mm-hmm.
the way I've talked to people who have lost children,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, people will not want
People
to
never ask about that child. Mm-hmm.
because they're afraid to,
Mm-hmm.
they don't want
Right.
to make them
Mm-hmm.
sad and think
Mm-hmm.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
That person thinks about that child who has passed
Mm-hmm.
all the time anyway,
Mm-hmm.
help relive their memory.
Right.
Same thing about cancer, just because
Mm-hmm.
I don't talk about it all
Mm-hmm.
the time,
Mm-hmm.
it's always running through your
Right.
mind.
Yeah, that
Every,
shadow is there. Mm-hmm.
everything I
Mm-hmm.
eat, drink,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
supplement, undertake, medical decision,
Right.
it's
Mm-hmm.
always on your
Mm-hmm.
mind. So it's so nice to
Mm-hmm.
receive just
Right.
something in the
Well,
mail to let people know that, to let
yeah.
you know that people are thinking about you.
And people sent me little angels. They sent what, and and that's probably one of the biggest questions I get is my friend, my coworker, my whoever has cancer, and I don't know what to do. So it's like you said, they don't do anything. And what do
Yeah.
we think? They don't love us.
Mhm.
Now, we also, a lot of times, we're not putting ourselves out there. And that's part of the voicing your feelings. We have to be honest. We have to say, hey, I'm not feeling good today, or I need somebody to go to the grocery store, or whatever it is, because we don't want to bother. We don't want to whine. But, eh, it is that elephant that's in the room. It's funny. That's my last blog post. There's this elephant that is in the room, so it's okay to address it. And maybe it's just to say, I'm so sorry you're going through this.
Absolutely.
And then they get to decide how much further they want to carry it. But I also tell people, don't say, Christy, just tell me if there's anything you need. I love that. I love that sentiment. But our little brains are going 900 miles an hour and we can't come up with something that we need. So be specific. Can I bring you dinner on Thursday? Can I take your kids to a movie? Do you need driven to an appointment? Whatever it is, if you're not local, what can I send you? Can I send you, we've got a meal delivery service on our website, all sorts of things like that, because then I can go, oh, dinner wouldn't work, but can you bring me lunch? And things like that. So be specific, because the easier you can make it for us, the better it is.
Also, if you have the disease that I have, and I think just talking to Deb, she has it also. I've gotten better, as I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you have, because this journey is about
Mm-hmm.
accepting help from
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
others.
I know that's the hardest thing.
It is hard. So in the beginning, even now, I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to be a bother. I don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
a burden. I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to take up your time.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's busy.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you say, what can I do for you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nothing, nothing. I'm good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
good.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a few friends specifically who said, I'm bringing dinner on
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday or Thursday, which would be better.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm doing, they would give me,
Mm-hmm.
a certain option.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, especially if someone has babies,
Mm-hmm.
and when I don't
Mm-hmm.
mean baby babies, children,
Mm-hmm.
the age.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're just so tired, but you want them to
Mm-hmm.
have a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
Mm-hmm.
can I take your kids to a movie? Can
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
just get them out of the house for a little
Mm-hmm.
while? Because that mom might be, or
Mm-hmm.
dad, whoever, might
Mm-hmm.
be exhausted, but they still
Mm-hmm.
want their children to experience
Right.
life and
Mm-hmm.
have some
Mm-hmm.
good
Right.
times.
Yeah. We joked about the bad, a four-letter word that starts with F. I think there's actually one that's worse, and that's fine. Christy, how you doing today? I'm fine. And I mean, that just, it doesn't matter, if it's the person at Starbucks or the doctor or whoever, that's what comes out of our mouth, because
Right.
we don't want to be a bother. We don't want to, we don't want to upset people.
Right.
I
Don't
had
want to make
somebody
people
ask,
feel bad.
yeah, and so we just say, oh, we're fine. And we could be ready to run a marathon, or we could be ready to keel over. And so you have to be honest. And so when people ask me, I tell them I'm hunky dory. And if I don't say hunky dory, they know there's something wrong. But plus it just kind of lightens the mood, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, if somebody says I'm fine, now it's okay to tell the person at Starbucks, I'm fine. Because they don't want to know. But other my philosophy is, if they ask, they at least want to know a little bit. They don't need
Right.
to know, we don't have
Right.
to be
Right.
TMI, right?
Right.
And so, but yeah, so when you're asking someone, now don't ask if you don't want to know.
Right.
That's the other thing. But that's where you maybe just say, I'm so sorry that you're going through this.
Yes, yes. And just it, because that means so much.
Hmm.
People want to fix it for you.
Hmm. Right.
So it's okay to understand that you cannot fix the horrible time that
Hmm.
your spouse, friend,
Hmm.
child, or whoever
Hmm.
is going through, but
Hmm.
just to give them sympathy
Hmm.
that, like, I'm sorry you're fighting this battle because
Right. Right.
it's, and sometimes again, people get very picky about the
Hmm.
words associated
Hmm.
with the cancer.
Hmm.
Well, let them have their words. Like I know
Hmm.
that,
Yeah.
Deb, you've called yourself a warrior. I've likened it to a battle because
Hmm.
honestly, I do feel like I'm still going
Hmm.
through the battle. Like every
Hmm.
time I
Hmm.
win a skirmish,
Hmm.
another one pops up.
Yep. Hmm.
And so it does feel like a battle to me, but some people
Hmm.
don't like that word. That's okay. Let them
Yeah.
have their words. Let them.
Right. Hmm.
And if
Yeah.
someone has said to, now something I will warn you against, don't tell other people how to address their illness.
Right. Right. Hmm. Yeah.
Everyone has to feel their
Hmm.
feelings. Everyone
Hmm.
has to be who they are, take
Right.
ownership
Hmm.
and power.
Hmm. I had somebody do that, when I was saying, and you call me a patient and I make a face, but I had said, yeah, I'm a warrior. And this person said, oh, that is so negative. And I'm like, you understand I'm fighting for my life. And it is interesting what people say to us, right? I think one of the worst ones are so and so had that too, and they died or they lived, right? There's um, even if someone has the exact same diagnosis. So,
Yeah.
and I actually, for example, I know somebody who was diagnosed triple positive metastatic breast cancer. That's as far as the similarity goes. Every person is different with the treatments they're going to choose, the options that they're going through, their reaction to things, all of that. And so saying, oh, grandma had breast cancer and she died, that's not helpful.
No, not at all. Not helpful at all. And, I think it's important for people to understand that as many people as there are on this earth, that's how many journeys
Mhm.
there will be.
Right. Yes, it is
Even if you're
different
diagnosed with
every
cancer,
time.
yes, because your
Right.
bodies are different. They're
Mhm.
going to
Mhm.
react differently.
Right.
I had just, I did something the other day that I had not
Mhm.
ever done before because of one of the treatments I was on.
Mhm.
So now that treatment's no longer working, I'm
Mhm.
kind of currently, as I'm recording this, at an in between. I haven't decided what
Ah.
the next
Mhm.
step is going to
Mhm.
be. Stop the old treatment because it wasn't
Mhm.
working. So I'm right
Mhm.
here currently, no
Mhm.
treatment. I'm going to. I just things
Right.
have to
You're just
go.
you're preparing that strategic plan.
Exactly. So I went for an IV therapy with vitamins.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, I hadn't, like I said, been able to do it before
Mhm.
because one of them was
Right.
an immune
Mhm.
inhibitor. So
Mhm.
these
Mhm.
IV. So this gal is so sweet and so interested in what
Mhm.
my journey and
Mhm.
has given me all these, you should follow this person. It's all about
Mhm.
food.
Mhm. Right.
And
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, yeah, I know. I even have that person's cookbook. And she said, oh,
Mhm.
that person has a cookbook. Oh, they have two. And
Mhm.
so every person she mentioned I already knew
Mhm.
about. She said, well, how
Mhm.
long have you been following
Mhm.
them? I said, oh, a couple of years.
Mhm.
And she started questioning me. I said, I've been trying to save my life. I've
Mhm.
been trying
Right.
not to die
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
2 years. So the
Mhm.
amount of information I have accumulated in
Mhm.
my little brain is
Mhm.
ridiculous.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yes. And I hope everyone listening to this, and I hope no one has to accumulate it.
Mhm. Right.
If
You.
you
Mhm.
do, find your
Mhm.
resources. Trying not to
Right.
die.live has a ton of them. Follow people who you trust.
Mhm.
The only thing I would say for anyone watching this to be careful of is when people say to cure your cancer, to continue living, you have
Yes.
to
You
do.
have to do.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Right.
If
Yeah.
you hear anyone
Mhm.
say you have to,
Mhm.
I would suggest that
Yeah.
there's other people that you
They
can get better information
well,
from.
and they might be meaning well,
Yes.
but and so usually I just nod and I say thank you. And but yeah, it is very interesting. And I also want to say, when we're thinking about what to say to people, we need to remember our caregivers, right? You and I were talking about our husbands.
Yes.
I can't imagine what mine has gone through. He has, he, like I said, he had to deal with talking to my mother, all of the doctors, all of those things. He's had to deal with changing bandages, stuff that he never ever wanted to do.
Oh,
And
was that
plus
his
he's,
dream, Deb? Are you kidding?
I know, and he's had to deal with my ups, my downs, all of those things, knowing that our life is going to be different than what we had thought, and just all of that. And so it's okay to go to our caregivers and
Mhm.
tell them, I'm sorry that you're going through this too.
Yeah.
Mine loved, people would bring food, right? And I couldn't eat it. I mean, there was for a variety of reasons. He thought that was the greatest thing in the world. He got all that food, but yeah, our caregivers in many ways have a more difficult journey than we do.
I actually just had that conversation with my husband the other day. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
so sorry because,
Mm-hmm.
I have an action plan. Yes, it's
Right.
happening to me, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
in it. This is my dog. This is
Mm-hmm.
my fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he kind of has a supportive role. Well,
Mm-hmm.
men in particular are
Mm-hmm.
not usually used to taking that supportive
Right.
role. They're
Mm-hmm.
used to the ones and being having their dog in the fights.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, can they transition? Yes. And I've known
Mm-hmm.
a ton of, husbands to do it so beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes remember the support staff
Mm-hmm.
of your
Right.
friend who has
Mm-hmm.
cancer. Make sure
Mm-hmm.
you're checking on them
Mm-hmm.
also.
Right. Right.
Because it's hard for them. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard to be that
And
support.
our medical team, like I said, I try and make them laugh. You understand this. You go in, what's your name and date of birth? Now, I don't do this to a new person because it would totally freak them out. But I tell them I'm Anastasia Beaverhausen. And in my infusion room, they've decided it's Princess Anastasia Beaverhausen. And I need a crown. I really need to, and so we laugh and we joke. And
I think you should definitely go in with a crown next time,
I
Deb.
know, yes, and so I had my 34th surgery in July. My scars have scars have scars, and so I was telling them, okay, you may refer to me as Anastasia Beaverhausen, and and they got me. Now, if somebody's very serious, I'm just not going to do that. And so you're in the bed and they're carting you off down the hall, right, to take you from the prep room to the surgical room. I'm doing the queen wave, right? Hello, hello, and all these people along my little jaunt were waving back, and I know they were all thinking she's had the happy juice. But
Right.
I made them laugh, and that's that was good.
It's the same. I had it probably this is a little bit, but it's just those things you have to do. So I was about to say
Right.
it's TMI, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
TMI because everyone has to have it done. I
Mm-hmm.
had a colonoscopy not too long ago because
Right.
you have
Oh
to.
yeah, fun things. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I had a new person doing it because
Mm-hmm.
you get referred from your
Mm-hmm.
primary care. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd never seen this person before. So afterwards, my the person who had done it, I'd seen her a little bit
Mm-hmm.
before. And she comes in, and I did at first I felt a little uncomfortable telling her this, but I just looked at this lady. She was one of the most physically stunning people I had ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I turned to her and she's talking. I said, I'm sorry. I just have to tell you that you are absolutely stunning. And so she's like taken aback, starts
Mm-hmm.
thanking me. And I was like, I'm sure you hear it all the time. And she said, no, actually, I don't. So when she
Mm-hmm.
left, the nurse said, yes, I think she looks like Halle Berry. And I
Okay.
said, oh, have you ever told her that?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I haven't.
Oh.
So sometimes we may think these
Mm-hmm.
beautiful things about the people
Mm-hmm.
who care for us,
Right.
and say
Mm-hmm.
them because we think, oh, it's inappropriate. It might have been
Mm-hmm.
inappropriate to
Mm-hmm.
tell her, but I did it anyway, and and she was. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the attitude and the energy you
Mm-hmm.
exude when you go in there.
Mm-hmm.
I talk in my world, I call it transmuting energy.
Mm-hmm.
When you take your negative
Right.
energy and
Mm-hmm.
transmute it, and it then
Mm-hmm.
spreads joy.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
There's no
And,
greater.
and we all know it's hard to be Mr. Gruffalump if somebody else is smiling and happy.
Yes. And on that note, I will tell you that Deb has mentioned and I have mentioned we do have days where we're grumpalumps.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
do try my best to keep it to myself, but
Yep.
sometimes if you're my
Mm-hmm.
good friend, I don't just go out and spread it to
Mm-hmm.
the general
Right.
population.
Mm-hmm.
But my good friends will hear about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. And it can be for a variety of things. I mean, The treatment that I have, so I take letrozole, which is yeah, yeah,
Yes.
because we're a little more mature, right? So if you were younger, you would take tamoxifen. But yeah, and so I have, and I listened to one of your other guests. I have osteoporosis caused by the letrozole. So I have chronic pain. And it's funny because they always know what's your level of pain. I'm like, well, you understand I'm always in pain. And so, but do people know? No. Now, my husband can pick up on it. And my friends can pick up on it that, I'm just a little slower or things like that. But yeah, there are just those things that we have that is now part of everyday life. And it will be interesting. So I go off the letrozole next year because it'll have been 10 years.
Oh, good.
Now, yeah, yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But I take Prolia because of the osteoporosis. And I just always make sure that I try to not break things. And knock on wood, I've only broken a toe in the last years. But yeah, we have these things and we just deal with them. And but I will be honest, one of the when I'm feeling especially pity party, right? Then that's when like I see a veteran who has no legs or hear about a parent that has a child with cancer and I'm like, oh honey, you got nothing to complain about. But there are days where I'm like, no, I'm whiny, just leave me alone.
Right. And I think that is so appropriate. I love that you give yourself those days
Mm-hmm.
because we have to process the feelings.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If you don't
Yeah, give
process the
yourself
feelings,
that grace. Mm-hmm.
right. If you don't process the feelings
Mm-hmm.
and just keep stuffing them down,
Mm-hmm.
eventually you choke
Mm-hmm.
on
Right. And we have this big explosion of
them.
right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, this has been such a delight.
So for everyone watching, the website is tryingnottoDie.live. She also has a private. Now, how do people join the private Facebook group?
There are links to it on the website.
Okay.
And I mean there's like a couple questions. I believe the questions are where did you find out about us? And because I'm not going to ask your diagnosis, I'm not going to ask. No, that's not my business.
And then you just have some moderators keeping
Yeah.
track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
very good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I will have Deb's contact information, whether
Mm-hmm.
you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to it on a podcast outlet. In the verbiage will be the links to Deb. And again, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for
Oh,
being.
Christy, first of all, know that first and foremost, you are in my thoughts. Whatever your battle brings, you will meet it head on. And so know that I'm now in your tribe and you're in my
Thank
tribe.
you. Thank you. I'll take it. I'll take another warrior.
Of course, of course. Mm-hmm.
Everyone have a beautiful day and thank you for being here.